because it's just, you're not seeing anybody, you're not talking to anybody. It's all emails, pure emails. And I was like, oh, geez, this is no way to live. So I went to Paris to get that job, a little side hustle, keep my head down, make coffee. And for some strange reason, I just kept getting promoted, and it didn't stop. An opportunity came when the general manager left, and they left a slot open, and I just filled that space.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast. Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you're from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate you spending your time with us, and we hope to bring you a great guest from right here in the San Gabriel Valley. If you're a returning listener, we do appreciate you. Thank you for continuing to support our work. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing and stay tuned for insight into someone from right here. Well, Scott, if people have listened to this show, they'll know that you spent time in Korea. And I think immersing yourself in a culture like that is probably one of the best ways to experience the culture. But what's a memorable thing about Korean culture that you came away from that experience with?
Probably just the strength of the people. They kind of joke, it's not a real joke, but that they were the battleground for all the Chinese and Japanese fights. Over the years, or wars over the years, and they all passed through Korea. So pretty hardy people, strong people. That's probably what I remember most clearly. Of course, I loved the food.
Yeah, you mentioned that several times on this show.
And now the culture of Korea is very strong throughout the whole world. It's quite incredible that Korea has accomplished what it has accomplished with what it has going against it, which is it's a fairly small country, and it's divided, so they're always in a state of war with North Korea. Yeah, pretty amazing.
Do you remember when Koreatown, started? Maybe what Western?
I remember it in the 80s. Yeah, it was like Western. It might have started as early.
Or maybe Vermont.
Yeah, Vermont is what I was going to say. But now, when I was here in the 80s, Koreatown was fairly limited in size.
And now it goes, to Studio City, maybe past it?
Oh, yeah, it's out of control. Not in a bad way. But.
And you've also shared with me over the years, you've had experience with Japanese culture as well, or people from Japanese culture.
Yeah, well, Japan, I grew up in Seattle, and the main, when I was growing up, the main Asian influence was Japanese, maybe Filipino, but probably Japanese was what I always thought was the main Asian group in Seattle. And I always wanted to go live in Japan. That was a dream of mine, actually. And I never did it. I visited, but never lived there.
Yeah, they're two unique cultures and very, very different. They have different cultural backgrounds and traditions, and in some ways they're similar. My experience with Korean and Japanese culture was really as an American, right, experiencing it as an outsider. But what I wanted to share was that my father, who is of an older generation, would always comment about his business dealings and where he had to clarify who he was if ever dealing with Koreans. And he didn't have anything personally against Koreans, but understandably there was a lot of conflict between Koreans and Japanese. And I only mention this because our guest today is both Korean and Japanese. And when I first learned this, my eyes, my eyebrows raised, and I was like, wow, that's the first time that I heard of that from what would have been my father's generation, maybe a little bit younger. But I'm really interested to hear what it was like, being both Korean and Japanese. But before we get onto that, I'm full from lunch. We just checked out this restaurant right across the street, the pho place.
Right across the street. Yeah. I haven't been there for a while. How was it?
It was good. I'm sorry I don't know the name, but Yeah, it was the first time we tried it, and it's right across the street. But
Yeah, right at San Gabriel and Valley.
that's right.
On the northwest side. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should have checked out Yelp or something. It's always hard to try something new around the office, as you know. But if you want to find out news or announcements, events, special savings, and everything in the San Gabriel Valley, don't forget, check out SGV Now on Instagram, sgv.now, and read their magazine on their website, sgv.now. Well, our guest today comes to us from someone that we mention regularly on the show, Paris Baguette in San Gabriel. Thank you to them and for sponsoring the drinks and the treats for our guests. We do appreciate that, and our guests appreciate that. Our guest today comes to us from Paris Baguette in San Gabriel, but she has her own unique story. Her name is Grace Takayama, and she's the Director of Operations at Paris Baguette San Gabriel. Grace, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear this story of you and your unique journey. But before we get into that, what is your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
My connection is probably through my great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers. That's the Japanese side. And they've been here building the Chinese railroads, and maybe even during the gold rush they came just to pursue an opportunity.
Oh, well, your family has been here that long on that side.
Just on my dad's side, they've been just hard at it, and it was up until maybe like 4 or 5 generations ago they finally hit success.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How did they do that?
Just grit, just
Oh,
good old
yeah.
good old grit. Pull by the bootstraps or
Yeah.
pull by the
Yeah.
what they had to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they've had quite a few setbacks, such as the Japanese termite cramps. My
Yeah.
grandfather was actually in the one where they rounded them up in Arcadia,
Oh.
the Arcadia Westfield, San Anita rice tracks, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they got bused to Arizona, where they were in the camp was called, I believe, the Gila pens, where they had Gila monsters, like
Really?
the lizards with like the blue tongue, and they open them, they're like yay big.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Intentionally, they put them with those because it's the only venomous reptile in North America.
It wasn't, of course, it wasn't intentional. The camps weren't terrible, but it just happened to be in the desert where there were plenty of those type of lizards go in and out, and they're like cockroaches. You can't stop them. You can't stop them. They crawl into building crawl spaces and the pipes, the walls. Well, my grandfather, I believe he was about 12 to 15 around that age, and he actually grew up without a father because during that time my great grandfather caught tuberculosis, so he was in the hospital for about 2 years. Because back then there was no proper medication, I want to say.
Yeah.
So he grew up with like his grandmother, his sister, mom. Didn't really have that strong father
Really?
figure to really guide the family.
Did you have a chance to spend a lot of time, or is he still alive, your grandfather? Have you been able to learn a lot from him?
In a sense, yes. I've actually learned more from the Japanese museum in Little Tokyo, where they had like all the luggages, exhibits, and such. Because my grandfather, he was still I want to say a boy. At 12 to 15, you're still not quite a teenager yet. You're still developing. You still want to go outside and play freeze tag with your friends.
Right. I wonder what it was like in a camp at that age. What life was like.
Life wasn't, I want to say, a very small town vibe.
Oh.
Where it felt like you're confined to between, for example, if you're in a small town in the middle of Nebraska, you're confined to the Walmart, the 7 churches, and the one gas station. I'm sure in the camps they had a dining hall, they had the fences wrapped around the entire place, and I believe once a week they were put on a bus to buy food or necessities or shampoo and things like that.
Well, did your grandfather share these experiences with you?
He mainly told me about the good stuff, about playing football with the boys, my great-grandmother, his grandmother. And one story that really stood out to me is when finally the camps were abolished. So they had this great big house. It was on a Commercial Avenue, I believe. And it was a very big property. It was close to an acre. It's about 2 stories, 5 bedrooms, only 1 bathroom, and about 5 avocado trees. And he would talk about how before the camps he would take care of them, and his grandmother would sweep the porch every day. And when the camps were finally closed down, they took people in a series of rounds where you get a ticket, and if you're like A, B, C, D, Group A will go first, and then Group B, and then Group D, and then C. But the priority was given to people who were elderly, elderly and the men. So his grandmother, my grandfather's grandmother, was one of the first ones to go. So when she went, went first to make sure to clean the house, take care, see if the building was still there. And she was out sweeping the porch. And when my grandfather, his sister, his mother, and his father, who was by then cured, went on the train towards the house to the SG area, in the train window, he saw his grandmother in front of the house sweeping the porch. So he would tell me that story and how he felt very relieved in a sense, because not everyone was as lucky. Some people lost a lot. They had to start from nothing. But for him, he felt that very unique sense of like gratitude in a sense.
So your family has been here for a long time. Were you born here in the San Gabriel Valley?
Unfortunately, I wasn't born here. What happens is, from my dad's generation, is they would go back to their country for a wife, where they're all American citizens. All the men or women were like born, and then if they were to choose a spouse, a life partner, they would bring someone from Japan. It's kind of like an arranged marriage. You know how it was back then. And then my dad was a little bit of a rebel because he went to Korea to college, and that's where he met my mother.
Oh.
And then I happened.
While in Korea?
In Korea.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, I would come here and I'll spend all my summer holidays, my winter vacations, and I actually spent a few years here as a child.
Really?
And, yeah.
So you grew up in Korea?
I want to say it's about a good 65% in Korea, and the rest of the time here.
In Seoul?
No, I'm actually from a very small little prefecture.
Where?
In the middle of nowhere.
Which one?
Oh, geez.
I know it.
You know it? Oh.
I mean, when you say it, I'll know it. I know all of the provinces.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, which one was your favorite?
Gangwon-do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Most people choose the mountains or the sea. You chose the plains.
Well, Gangwon-do is mountainous, but I lived there, and that's why, it's my favorite. But Jeju-do is probably the best. It's an island.
I'm from there.
You're from Jeju-do?
I'm from Jeju-do Island.
Wow.
So when I was growing up, it wasn't the touristy place it is now. Back then it was a bit like before Hawaii became Hawaii.
Yeah. Jeju-do has perfect weather, and it has the women swimmers, right? Yeah, I've been to Jeju-do. Yeah.
Yeah, they have amazing seafood.
Jeju City. Yeah.
Very nice. I miss it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I know if I go back, there's none of my childhood friends, none of the aunties and grandmas and I grew up with are gonna be there.
Yeah.
So your father, you described him as a rebel, went to Korea instead of Japan to find a wife. And then you're growing up in between America and Korea. As a person of mixed ethnic background, how was that growing up in both Korea and in the United States?
In a sense, it was quite interesting. It wouldn't be something I would do again. If someone came to me and was like, all right, would you go back to being 5 years old? I'm like, nah, I'm good. Because I feel it was very unique in a sense where my father's the one that was Japanese, and women take when the children and the wife takes the father's last name. So I ended up with it was like Grace Takayama, and technically speaking, like whatever your mother's culture is, that's your culture. It doesn't matter if you're half Cambodian and half Irish. If your mother's Irish, you're gonna be Irish, because the wife takes care. The wife is the mother who nurtures, cares, raises a child. So I grew up mainly in Korean society. I have a Japanese last name, but I relate more with the Korean side. Mainly because I don't speak Japanese. I can read a little bit here and there, but my Korean's much better. I can read, I can write, I can bargain, I can curse, I can complain, I could whine, I can brag, all in Korean. Growing up, when I would go to Japan, I would stick to places where I knew there was a very large Korean population, where I can go to the dentist, I could see a lawyer, I could pay my taxes, I can get a job without speaking English or Japanese.
But it must have been difficult in Korea because with a Japanese name, how were you accepted?
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. It wasn't.
Did you have a Korean name?
I did have a Korean name when I was very first. When I was a child. It was chosen by a shaman who consulted the stars, the moon, and my grandfather. Both my grandfathers. They actually had a say in what my name was going to be. So my name isn't really a family name.
It's a made up name.
It's a consulted name.
Yeah.
So it's very
Well, I'm sorry
interesting.
I interrupted you. You were going to talk about what it was like with growing up sort of Japanese in Korea, not accepted.
The only problem would come up is I can pass. I could pass as a Korean person. If I
Yeah,
walk down the
definitely.
street and
Yeah.
then I talk, they're like, "Oh, you're Korean. You don't have like a English, Japanese, or whatever accent." You know,
Yeah.
I could walk somewhere and I'll pass and I'll be treated as if I was one of them. Only main problem is that when I would apply for jobs, when I would go to school, ironically, people who were close to me.
Really?
It was yes. There was a little bit of that, in a sense. I don't know why, but.
Because my experience in Korea was that the Koreans did not like Japanese at all.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so you looked Korean, but you kind of bore the burden of being Japanese in Korea.
in a sense, yes. And even then, Korea is a very patriarchal society where it's not really easy for a woman to navigate. And it wasn't outright bullying where, they would push me down the stairs or anything. It was when something, for example, when Japan imposed import taxes in Korean whatever merchandise, Koreans would go on strike and say, "Oh, I'm not buying any more Japanese products." And then my friends would say, "Hey, are you still supporting? Which side are you supporting?" I'm like, "Oh, geez, I don't know. Whichever's on sale."
Wow, that still must have been tough. Like, were you exposed to, or did your father or mother tell you or share with you why these kids may be having these, thoughts or comments towards you?
I knew. I always knew. It's just something you learn as a kid growing up. You overhear your moms talk about this and that, and you overhear relatives, you overhear people from the market or the streets, and you just know. I just grew up knowing. So most of the time, I didn't really advertise because I just let myself just pass, go under the radar. Keep my
Sure.
head down.
Yeah. Are your parents still in Korea?
Actually, my parents actually retired to Mexico.
Oh,
My mom, she said, "You know what, I want to retire in Mexico." She and my dad packed their bags and off they went.
wow. Do they like that?
Oh, they love it. They love it.
Where do they live?
They live in a prefecture. Not a prefecture. It has its own airport and it has a safari.
Uh-huh.
It's in Puebla, Mexico.
Wow.
So, Grace, you're spending 35% of your time here when you're growing up, and then when did you eventually move fully to San Gabriel Valley, or did you come to the San Gabriel Valley when you moved here?
When I first moved here, I did come to San Gabriel Valley because there was a family house that my great-great-grandfather had forever. He built that house. He had the wood and materials imported from Japan because he wanted to build a house that was going to last forever. And that house has been within my father's family for generations, for a very long time. And when my parents want to go to retire to Mexico, they can't leave the house empty, and they weren't going to rent it out to who knows who might
Destroy it.
destroy it, remodel it, hoarding, crazy stuff. So my mother contacted me. She said, "Hi, would you like to?" She didn't say hi. She was like, "You're coming to America."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "I'm not coming to America. I'm established here. I got my education. I had a man. I had a good job. I had savings. I had money. I felt safe. I had my friends. I had everything in Korea. And then I thought, you know what? It's a family house. I shouldn't let it due to my own selfishness. And I'm young. When's another chance for me to be able to live in a place like California where it's very expensive, this and this. Housing's already taken care of, which is the main problem for any move. And this is more low-key, but deep down, I felt if I ever have children and I had a son, I didn't want him to go to the military.
Which would be required in Korea.
Very required.
Yeah.
They're very strict now. Even if you skip down on it 30 years ago and you're 52 years old and you go to Korea, they catch you at the airport, they still make you serve. They won't make you put together a gun or anything, or the good old Forrest Gump yelling at you while you're making your bed. They'll put you in an office job and you'll be there for 3 years. They tack on penalties and penalties and penalties, and you have to pay a fine, and you go to jail, and it's a tack on your life. So
Wow.
Yeah, so
Even after 30 years, if you go back, they'll do that.
yes.
Wow.
Yes. And it's now a little bit more harsh than it was. For example, I had someone that I knew very close to me, who I would help. We were neighbors essentially, and then she was, you know, in her, you know, she was like 32, 30, 31, you know, and she had like 2 children, all under school age, under 5 years old, and her husband was 42, so she was about 10 to 11 years older than her. So one day he got a letter saying he had to go to Korea. So he's like, all right, he took care of some business and he went to Korea, and they caught him at the airport and they took him away. No nothing. He wasn't able to contact his family until about a week later.
Wow.
And imagine, you know, he was a main breadwinner. He was a breadwinner. His wife was a stay-at-home. He had 2 young children.
And somehow they lured him back because they knew he had not served.
He had not served, and he thought in his mind, because he applied for American citizenship about 10 years ago. So he thought, okay, I'm an American now. I don't need to serve. That's not how it works.
Wow. What is that called? Is that called like is it selective service?
Yeah, I guess because that's what we called it here. The draft was selective service, I think.
But it's every
mandatory.
male though, right?
It's mandatory service.
Mandatory service.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other countries that do that. But
Sure. Yeah.
Israel has excellent military. One of the I think the Israeli military is one of the best in the world. The Korean military is based off of the Israeli military.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because they're surrounded.
Yeah, same, right.
wow.
And remember, Korea is still in a state of war. Mm-hmm. The war is never ended. So
yeah, no peace treaty, no nothing.
No.
Wow. Okay. So you made your way over to the San Gabriel Valley, and what has your experience been like living here?
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. 626 has everything I could ever truly want. It's quiet. It's quiet suburbs, but within a walking distance of 1 or 2 miles, I can eat, drink anything I want. If I want Mexican food, I can get Mexican food. If I want American, I can get American food. If I want Vietnamese, I can get Vietnamese. If I want Korean, I can get Korean. If Japanese, I can get Japanese. And it's just like a 30-minute drive. I'm in Koreatown. Everything I need there as a Korean, I could get. There's no need for nostalgia. I don't feel nostalgic. So I think 626 is unique in that sense. And I got to spend the rest of my life here, raise my kids and all that.
But you were living in Jeju-do at that time. You didn't want to come. You thought life was perfect there.
I was born in Jeju-do. I grew up there for a little bit, and then I actually moved to like the big city Seoul and then Busan. Okay. And over there, everything was walking distance as well. There's a great quality of life. Yeah. And one thing I knew in my heart is if I stayed in Korea, I would have had amazing quality of life. Yeah. I would be able to raise children, rent or buy a modest house, live a good old white picket fence life, have food, eat good stuff. But I knew I'd never be rich, because that's just how it's built. Yeah. But here, it's a lot easier to become, in a sense, wealthy. It's a lot easier for you to go from lower to middle class and middle class to so on and so forth. Yeah.
Did you attend school here in the San Gabriel Valley?
I did attend school for some years. I don't know if I should say this because I overstayed my visa. So I did take some school in here, and I actually went to PCC for bookkeeping.
Oh yeah.
Yes, which ironically became the backbone of my current career and my past careers.
Oh, is that right?
So you attended PCC, and how did that tie into what you're doing now?
What I'm doing now is operations. It's pure operations, and I actually, Periscope to me was just going to be a side job, something I did for fun. Because who doesn't want to wake up early and make coffee in the morning? It's an easy job. Make coffee. This is, hello, how you doing? People generally come into the store are happy. This is extra calories. They're coming in for that dopamine hit, that serotonin, all that good stuff. So I just wanted to just have a, good morning, how you doing? Have some regulars, make some friends, have that good community. Mm-hmm. Because I actually work online bookkeeping full-time, where I salary, and I work about like 25 to 30 hours. And that was a very lonely job. And during the pandemic, it made it worse. Mm. Because it's just, you're not seeing anybody, you're not talking to anybody. It's all emails, pure emails. And I was like, oh, geez, this is no way to live. So I went to Paris to get that job. A little side hustle, keep my head down, make coffee. And for some strange reason, I just kept getting promoted.
Oh, is that right?
I just kept getting promoted, and it didn't stop. An opportunity came when the general manager left, and they left a slot open, and I just filled that space.
Oh, nice.
And
Well,
Bookkeeping
Paris
came in
Baguette is a good community location, isn't it? You wanted to meet people, have friends. That's an excellent place to do it.
Yes, I agree, because whether you're a bakery, you're a small business, you're a restaurant, this and that, unless you're something such as like a bowling place, most of your customers or clientele are going to be within a 5 to 8 mile radius.
Yeah.
Like that's truly a local, it's a community-based clientele.
Yeah. I remember now the conversation we had when we first talked about coming onto the show. Like you had mentioned something about feeling that way during the pandemic. And I think a lot of people, having to leave the workforce, which may have been their only interaction that they got, were sort of now, thrust into this solitary, way of living, which is just not healthy. You're supposed to be around people and around others and interacting. And so you got the job at Paris Baguette. You enjoyed it, I'm presuming, and you could continue to get promoted there. And did you find what you were looking for in that job?
Yes, that and possibly more. I was able to meet other business owners, other people, and just unique individuals every day who just come by, have a cup of coffee, 3 or 4 sentences of really good conversation, and they're on their way.
Yeah. Grace, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
I actually bought 2 items, so you can like snip out whichever one you like. So in this box I have a really old Metro coin from 1970, very old.
What did you call it?
A very old Metro coin from
Metro coin.
1970.
From Korea?
No, this is from like LA.
Oh, really?
Because this is also a roll I've taken from my coin collection. I've had this coin collection for about 6-8 generations.
Really?
Where my great grandfather and him before that would collect coins. So I had this massive coin collection.
Are those silver dollars?
These are silver dollars.
Oh my gosh.
These are $20 worth of silver dollars. I'll actually take them out.
Well, they're 20 silver dollars, but the weight of it is more, right? Way more than $20.
Of course.
I'll buy it from you for $20.
But I do not keep this at home. I keep all these in a security deposit box.
Yeah.
But this one I pulled out specially for the podcast.
Oh, this one?
Yes, and I have a massive collection. This is no joke. This is generations on generations of collections. So I have other items of significance, such as like pennies and nickels and dimes.
So this is a Liberty dollar, or what is it? I don't know.
Me, myself, I'm not too 100% sure. I just received this as...
wow, 1889.
Yes, and the oldest one here is like 1883.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So I don't know who that is on the coin.
So they here on
1889.
Google, 1883, one special one is valued at 9,500.
Wow.
And one valued at 68.
How about an 1889 silver dollar? Who is that on the dollar?
I am not sure. They call it a Morgan dollar.
Morgan.
So 1889, $1,100. 1889, $3,400. So there are some unique ones in there in that year, I would say. But yeah, if ever you want to sell it for $20. So your grandfather gave you this collection?
Yes. All the men seem to just... Well, back then, that was a hobby. They collect coins, marbles, stamps, all books, all that good stuff.
Wow.
But one thing that was like everlasting that I guess each generation, like cousins, uncles, fathers, and grandfathers, one thing they really related is coins. They just love the coins. And
do you have Korean coins?
Korean coins, I do have some foreign Korean coins. I have Canadian coins. I have some New York bus tokens. It's just a huge collection. Not all of them, like silver dollars or like, wheatback pennies or Indian head nickels. It's just a collection that they've curated over the years.
Yeah.
And years and years and years.
What is the other item that you brought?
The other item I want to bring up, this is actually from my mother's side, which is quite interesting because Korea was, as you said before, it was a battleground.
Yeah.
Where they had, the Chinese, the Mongolians, everyone and everything, or most cultures will come by. And this is hairpins. These are hairpins from different cultures and generations that my mother's side collected. And this is a comb from 1915.
Oh, wow.
And they're all metal.
Hairpins.
Yeah, hairpins where you grow and you just stick them in like a bun.
So you have quite a bit of hair, and it's very long, right? So are you able to put them up using just those instruments?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And this is from my mother's side. So there's some interesting ones where they have like Korean influences as well as some Mongolian influences and some Chinese culture in them as well. And they're very old. I don't know how old they are, but...
And why are these special to you?
I thought it was very interesting because every family has that one thing, whether it's a recipe passed down or a jar or a bicycle or a car that's passed down, or some type of collection. So I found it very interesting how my father's side chose coins. Coin was their major default. That's what they like to collect. That's what they like to pass down. And for my mother's side, it was hairpins, hair accessories in these sense. So I thought there's such a vast difference in what they chose to pass down.
Yeah.
So I ended up with both. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your mother because I believe one thing you said when we first met at Paris Baguette was that your mother watches Chinese TV.
She does.
Is she Chinese or, mixed, or how would she know the language? Or does she even know the language?
My mother's full Korean, but she can read quite a bit. Speaking's terrible, but she can read quite a bit. And she would watch him in Korean subtitles.
Oh, okay.
Because Chinese dramas and stuff, they're to me, I feel like they're just as good as Korean dramas, but they're just so many. It's just hard to differentiate.
Okay.
Grace, when you, let's say I landed here or decided to stay here in the San Gabriel Valley, did you experience some of the same things that you did in Korea, being of mixed ethnicity, or is it not even a thing here?
Oh, geez, here they love me. They love me. They look at me and go, "Oh my God, you're anime and K-pop." I'm like, "Oh, geez, thank you, but no."
So when you first told me Korean and Japanese, and I was like, "Oh, that's what you are," because I guess it's a thing amongst Asians to try to figure out, right? And you think that you can, and I would have guessed that you're Korean, and then once you said that, I was like, "Oh, your eyes look like a lot of my Japanese friends' eyes. Like you have two, in my opinion, distinctly Japanese eyes, and then a lot of the other features look Korean." But anyway, I'm sorry. So they loved you here. You didn't experience any of that, like, oh, you're both Korean and Japanese.
No, I didn't experience none of that. It was great. It was good. Only thing that really got to me was I wasn't able to touch upon Japanese culture at all. Sure, there was food. There was little anime shops, and there's like little trinkets and gift shops, and Yama seafood. I can get some authentic food, but they all moved away. They all moved away because when my grandfather was growing up in the house that I currently live in, it was all either Japanese or Latin kids. Because the Japanese back then were poor. No one was rich. Back then it wasn't the Latin labor gardeners. It was the Japanese gardeners. And they would go around and even my grandfather was a gardener and then his grandfather before that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Japanese actually are gardeners, and I think a large population are still gardeners. Yeah, if I were out in the sun forever, I would be super dark, and I think under like a straw hat, you couldn't tell what I was. Yeah, like I would get super dark. But I think a lot of people they moved, right? But now you see a lot of them in South Bay.
South Bay, and it's a little bit unfortunate because I would have liked to grow up with a touch more knowledge and influence of Japanese culture. But I'm grateful for how I grew up and how my mother and my father, they tried to cure me the best, because my father, he's very American. He's very American. He eats with a fork. He likes mac and cheese. And growing up, my mother would always cook Korean food or some type of American dish that she wanted to try. So I wasn't able to grow up eating like nori or miso soup.
Did you grow up mostly eating Korean then?
Mostly Korean, but even then it was very bare bones. My parents were very, very simple. They really, really treasured a simple life.
Grace, I'm really curious about why you speak the way you do. You have a unique tempo of speaking, and there's this pause that you have after being asked a question, and it's almost always there, right? I think, and I don't come across a lot of people like that, and certainly not someone your age. But are you aware of that? And if you are, where did you get that? See.
I have to think. Maybe it's because I'm sleep deprived. I'm just kidding. One thing as a child I was growing up, I was a very rambunctious creature. Rambunctious creature, not a child, a creature. Like God forbid.
You were like a Gila monster?
A Gila monster, a gremlin, all that. All that plus more. There's a reason I'm an only child. And the way I spoke was very loud, very, in a sense, ghetto. Because when I learned my English, it wasn't through like tutoring or books. It was through watching shows such as Everybody Hates Chris, the Wayans brothers. In a sense, my English sounded very ghetto. Where my parents wouldn't know because they don't understand different accents. But in schools, when I go to schools, and in Korea too, they wouldn't know because they don't know what a good American accent is. So I had to work very hard in my own private time to be able to speak much better.
So you went to Korean schools. You lived in Korea, but how did you learn English exactly? Just from watching TV or?
Watching TV, reading books.
You spent some time here.
Spent some time here, and then my parents, they speak. Well, my mother speaks, like, her English is okay, but my father speaks very good English. My grandfather speaks great English, and he would send me boxes of comic books, like, Hellboy, the Superman, Batman comics, and he would send me VHS tapes of all these like kids Disney movies. So I was able to learn English there, and my English right now is I would say at its peak. If you were talking to me about five years ago, I would have probably still had an accent, maybe sound a little bit more ghetto.
So I'm curious, and maybe the listening audience is curious. What does the ghetto accent sound like?
Oh, gee.
Can you turn it on? Can you give us some Wayans Brothers or Everybody Hates Chris?
Oh, no.
Come on.
If my mom would see this, she beat me. She only found out about the accent about a few. Okay. In the accent, I'll do it in a sense of a story.
Okay.
So one time I was in Disneyland and I was having a good time with my friends, doing this and this, and eventually we got separated because we wanted different items, such as one wanted to go to California, Screamin' Land, one wanted to go get churros, one wanted to go to the pretzels, get the mouse-shaped pretzels. So I was waiting, having my smoothie, having a good old time, and then I feel a tug on my jacket. I look behind me and there was like a kid. The kid looks at me and goes, "I'm lost." And I'm like, "No, God, why?" on my private good, my day off, I was like, "Why this kid's lost? Jesus Christ." So, I did the obvious right thing to do. I took the kid to the Lost Kids Center. So I took it to the Lost Kids Center, and all there was actually 3 kids there. So the kid I took was a white kid, blue eyes, white hair, blonde hair, and they were about like 10, 11 years old. And then while I was there's 3 kids. One was a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're all just waiting there at the Lost Kids Center. And I was talking to the attendant, going, "Jesus Christ, what's up with all these children here?" There's no one, like, of course, if you were to lose a kid, Disneyland's the best place. But still, they lost a kid. I'm like, what? How you finna do that? That's it.
So I can detect like a shortening of certain words, some slang, but it's not like thick.
No, it's not thick. It's a lot better now, but before it was pretty bad. I would think it was pretty bad. I actually had someone sit me down and be like, you need to speak better.
Who's like, when's the first time someone said that to you?
Oh geez, it happens every year.
Every year.
Every year somebody says it.
Are they a native English speaker?
No, it's just someone who, usually it's someone when I would work somewhere, it's someone in a higher position at work. They would sit me down and say, "Your English sounds not in a negative sense. It was like a self-improvement when I would sit down and do like the annual review or 6 months. They would say, Grace, you sound a little ghetto. You're a Korean immigrant. You're a Korean Japanese immigrant. Why do you sound so ghetto?"
That's the word that they use to describe it?
Yeah, it's just you sound like you were raised as if you were a Korean adoptee and you got adopted by a bunch of people in Louisiana. And I was like, oh, that's not true, but
Wow. Well, Grace, we're gonna come back to learn more about your story, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Warmouth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. Their multicultural staff have been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast.
All right, we're back with Grace. Grace, during the break, you were sharing with Scott about how you, in fact, chose your name. Can you share with us that story?
when I got my American citizenship, I was able to change my name. And
what was your name before?
My name before, it was Kaun, as in like G-A-N-E, like Kaun. And that's just like the first name. The last name I won't disclose. Mm. But it generally just means like natural beauty. It's like beauty at its natural form. Because the shaman and my grandfather hoped I would come out beautiful. They were like praying. They were like, we don't care if she's smart, just come out beautiful.
Oh.
And that was my original name. When I came to became a American citizen, and then they gave me a list, a short list of names to choose. And then on like top of the list, it was like all these names like Stephanie, Alexandria, Stefani, all these like Josephine, all these 8 to 10 letter names. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how am I going to memorize or spell this? And in the middle of all that, there was Grace. I was like, 5 letters, that's beautiful, Grace. I'm going to be Grace. And I didn't realize until years later how common it was, how common the name Grace was, which I should have figured.
It's not that common, really. I've found it is, like, I see a lot of Koreans with that name, but I don't see a lot of native born with that name. Actually, I think my grandmother's name was Grace, but that was a long time ago.
It's not a biblical name, but I think it is of Christian influence.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe the top 5 biblical Christian influenced names were, I believe, Grace, Charity, Grace, Charity. I'm blanking, but there was like
maybe
top 5.
Faith.
Faith was one.
Hope.
Oh,
actually,
Hope.
Yeah. Faith, Hope, and Charity.
And then there's a one more, but I forgot. But it was like those were the top.
And Grace, you said, was first.
Chastity is not a name, huh?
No.
Is it?
Yeah. Charity.
Oh, and in addition to Charity,
like
Chastity.
Cher had a daughter named Chastity.
Oh, really?
Who then transitioned to being male, but at birth that was Chastity.
Okay, so there's 5.
That's 5.
Charity, Hope, Grace,
Faith, Hope, Charity,
Chastity.
Grace, Chastity.
I remember when I went to Virginia, there's a lot of people where they had like unique names, Melrose and things like that. But their middle name would be something like Grace or one of the 5.
Oh.
Grace, Hope, or Faith, or whatnot. Oh. So I think it's still alive. It's just rather than a first name, it moved on to being a middle name.
Mm.
Well, Grace, when we come back from the break, we'd like to ask questions from this card game called Icebreakers. It's a little fun insight into who we are, and it gives the listener a better chance to know us, and you can choose to answer it or not. And so here we go. Which famous person have you met? I'll go first. Scott Warmoth.
Wow, that's a good one.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, he took mine.
Oh, wow.
He is famous, though.
10 points. No, but you must know a real you've met a lot of real famous people.
I have. I would say probably the most recognizable would have been Magic Johnson. Mm. Yeah. What about you?
Probably one of the presidents, like Clinton or Biden. It's probably the most famous. I mean, my brother could say, and my sister could say they met one of the Beatles.
Oh.
They would Paul McCartney, but no, I would say probably. Yeah, one of the presidents.
What about you, Grace?
I've met. I haven't actually gone up and like talked to them, had a conversation, but I've seen Johnny Depp at a hot pot place.
Oh,
Seen Johnny Depp at a hot pot place.
Locally?
Yes, locally around the 626
Oh, yeah?
area.
wow.
I've seen him there, and I was like, oh wow, that's Johnny Depp. But I didn't go up to him. I should have, or at least taken a picture or something.
Were there a
Yeah.
lot of people surrounding him?
No, he was actually very low key, just sitting there. And if I didn't actually take a double take, I wouldn't have seen him, because he stood out. Because one, he was only American at the establishment. Usually, a lot of locals, a lot of Asian locals like to go there. And I saw him there. And regarding A-list celebrity famous people, I haven't met too many. I've met a lot of more YouTube stars.
Oh, like who?
David So, the Just Kidding Films cruise. I've met, what's his name? Mai Chani, Wang Fu brothers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're from Arcadia, right?
Yeah, they're right from Arcadia.
Isn't it interesting how, like, these celebrities or famous people now, like they're from the social media space or YouTube can be just as big, if not bigger reach than traditional
Yeah.
A-list Hollywood type celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another famous person would be who was described, I think you said that he was described as the something government of Los Angeles, like the hidden government of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sort of the power.
Yeah.
The power. Oh, it would be I know who you're talking about. I don't know if you're going to reveal
Yeah,
his
I'm
name.
not going to reveal his
Okay,
name. Yeah.
all right. Well, he's I know who you're talking about. It's like the power behind like the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the better people to know.
I agree. And I've met a lot of like people in the music industry, a lot of models in Korea, because I just happened to, the company I used to work for used to manage that world a lot. So I was able to meet, like Big Bang. I was able to meet Girls' Generation. I was able to meet like Shiny.
Yeah.
So that's famous.
Yeah.
Well, to our listening audience, or if you're watching online, which famous person have you met? Let us know in the comments, and we'll read it off in a future episode. Well, you described speaking in this way, which was described to you as ghetto, but did you also absorb that sort of way of culture, like of not only speaking, but dress and mannerisms and that sort of thing as well?
In a sense, yes, because you're generally shaped by whatever environment, zip code, school, culture, whatnot. And when I was younger, I would dress more American, crop tops and like short shorts. And my mom would hate me. My dad would hate me too. And I didn't really wear a lot of dresses and skirts. And growing up, I realized I was out of like the school atmosphere. I was out of the club atmosphere. So club as in like school clubs, not like 2 a.m. clubs. And during work, I would dress, in button-ups, something a lot more tailored items, this and this, dress pants, skirts, and that would kind of leach into my private life. When I would go out, I would wear jeans, a button-up, and high heels, and with a nice purse. But nowadays, since I was out of the office environment for a long time. I was working from home and I work at a bakery. So I would say, clothing-wise, I try to more modest. Less is more, in a sense. And when I go out with my friends, I always try to no loud colors.
Grace, I just realized you said you're an only child.
Yes.
And both your parents are retired in Mexico.
Yes.
So are you here basically on your own, by yourself?
Yes and no. I live alone, but I have uncles, I have cousins, I have a grandfather who all live here. So they're more than happy to, in a sense, there's someone for me to always call. And for my parents retiring to Mexico, I want to say that if someone is able to retire early, in a sense, where they don't have generational wealth, they don't have hardcore luck where they hit the numbers, and they were able to retire early, and they choose to retire, they retire about 6 months. They have the drive, that work ethic, the reason to get up in the morning. They're not going to stay retired. They're going to either start a business or start a business or start a business. So that's what they ended up doing. And I told them, Jesus Christ, why would you even start? Why retire? Why'd you retire in the first place? You could just kept going what you already had.
So what do they do?
So my father does he's in the construction field. Can't really go into detail, but like he's in like that field. My mother, I can go into more detail because in Mexico, what she noticed is that a lot of housewives who have spare time. They have spare time, maybe like 4 hours, 3 hours after the housework's done, the laundry's done, send the kids off to school if they go to school, or during that downtime between after dinner and like before they go to sleep, they would have time to do things or their own like reading or whatnot. But I don't know how literate they are in that province. But so they would make flowers. You know, it's not a unique business where it's like, oh, start from scratch, like Tom's shoes or whatnot. It's just they would make flowers and they would tell it to my mom, and my mom would take that and then she would sell it at stores. So it's a small business in that aspect where you can make your own money. Supply's already there. It's very easy to do, and it's a little downtime for if you want to get for your kids' birthdays or, you know, your Christmas or any holidays or, you know, Mother's Day. Mother's Day is huge over there. They shut down the whole country. Father's Day is not so much. But
Yeah.
Grace, before we go on to the final segment of the show, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice before you started your journey to change from bookkeeping, what advice would you have given yourself?
I would have said to sleep more.
To sleep more?
To sleep more. I would say to sleep more because I spent a lot of sleepless nights between work, trying to keep a social life, trying to do a hustle, trying to do this and this, but sleep is so important for problem solving and critical skills. And once you have the sleep down, you can solve all the problems. You could do all the critical thinking, that's where all the big money is at. There's a limit to what you can do with your body. You can work hard. You can really, you know, by the bootstraps, but there's a limit. There's a cap. So once you have that work ethic, you've built the great routine. You have to be able to think. I'm not talking about like smarts. I'm talking like thinking, general thinking, and patience too. I wish I was patient. Oh, Jesus Christ. I need a lot of that.
Scott, see, you could 10x if you just slept. Scott doesn't sleep.
Really?
Yeah. I'm too famous.
Well, I think he doesn't sleep enough or sleep well.
I don't. Yeah. I sleep horribly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I always, like when I was in high school, I would start work at 3 a.m. So, you know, I always had this screwed up sleep schedule. It's never changed.
Well, Grace, we're going to move on to the final segment of this show where we get to know a little bit more about what you like in the San Gabriel Valley. Grace, this is the segment we call the SGV3, and we ask you to share your 3 favorite or most memorable places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So what is number 1?
Number 1, I would say, is Mellow Mellow. Mellow Mellow is going to be this coconut pudding place. They have it in glass jars, and you know, if you accumulate 10, you get one for free.
Oh yeah.
And it's just amazing. They have seasonals. It's great. It's good for you. And I haven't had true good coconut pudding since I went to the Philippines. That's how good it is.
Where is that?
It's in a plaza close to where the big plaza it is, between I think 99 Ranch. It's like from Daiso 99 Ranch, and like a plaza across from it's called Mellow Mellow.
Is that near Focus Plaza?
I don't know. Can you say pudding again?
Pudding?
She said pudding.
Yeah, you did. Did you know that you said pudding?
No, I didn't. No, I did not.
And see, now you said nah, I didn't.
He's going to catch everything. Everything you say.
Okay, so it's coconut pudding or pudding.
Yes,
which is good.
Pudding.
Yeah.
Pudding.
It's like pudding. It's considered.
Yeah, it's 700 feet from here, but don't walk because she doesn't think walking is good for you. It's just right down the street on Valley. Yeah.
Awesome. And what would be a second place?
Second place, I would say, would be really good. Would be Katsusando.
Oh, it's in the same center as Paris Baguette, right?
Yes, it is, and the food is amazing. As in a sense where that's as close to, because for one, you know, bread and fried chicken, they go together no matter what. No matter how good of a place is, no matter how 4 stars, Michelin star, Popeyes, whatever. It's like the Toyota of sandwiches. It's like it'll be good no matter what. Like it'll be a little greasy, it's salty, it's got that MSG, it's good. But katsando, that's where I eat it and I'm like, oh wow, this is quality. And they have amazing sauces. It's a small menu too, so it feels as if I'm at an In-N-Out and I'm not treasured. All right, I got 8,000 things to choose from. Do I want tomatoes or no tomatoes? Do I want this sauce or that sauce? It's simple, it's clean and to the point. And I really like that. And for me, I don't like protein with bread. I think it's off-putting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like protein with like rice or noodles, but if it with bread, it kind of, because I see bread as dessert and like French toast. But if it was like a French toast with like bacon and eggs, I'm like, oh, jeez, Christ.
Be no good. Yeah.
It's a heart attack.
Yeah.
I walked in there. I didn't order anything, but I walked in there just to look at it. Clean is definitely an adjective that I would use. It's very clean, very open, and very, very small menu, right? Very small menu. Maybe 6 items. I don't know. But okay, Katsusando.
And they do collaborations with, like Calpac and stuff, where there was like a line out the door and I was going to work and I was like, Jesus Christ, what happened? And it was a Calpac.
Scott's that way. Why are you laughing, Scott?
I think, let's count, but maybe that's 30 times you said Jesus Christ.
Is that something that you picked up from the show too?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's one thing. That's one thing too.
And what is the third place?
I would say Ogopogo Brewery. It's small, it's nice, and it's genuinely good beer. It's genuinely good IPA. It's very, like, I don't drink beer that often, but when I do, I'm like, oh wow, this is good. Like when I go, I get at least 9 glasses, 9 pints.
Oh, you
wow.
drink 9 pints?
I can drink.
Wow.
But for them, and you could, DoorDash food and...
I may have to say Jesus Christ.
Well, she doesn't walk after that, for sure.
No, I don't walk anywhere. I get carried out. No, I'm just kidding. But I've... one story is when I was at Ogopogo, I DoorDashed some food. I forget what it was. But when I DoorDashed food, I met the dasher at the door, and he walks in. He's like, oh, wow, what is this? He's like, oh... Like he's never been here. He's been DoorDashing for 8 years, and it's the first time he's ever been in Ogopogo.
Oh wow!
He's like, oh wow, I've lived here. I've done this for 8 years. I've lived here for 10, and you've just never been in there.
Well, I've never heard of it before. The first time it was mentioned on our show
Was with Jason.
Yeah, and so since then, at least 3 people have mentioned it. I think
So.
Yeah, but that was the first time I had ever heard of it. A couple of months ago, maybe.
Just want to say I recommended Jason Ogopogo. I'm the one that recommended it.
Really?
I did, and then after that he keeps going.
Oh,
He keeps going. I was like, oh my goodness.
And see, Jason never said that Grace is the one who introduced you.
Yeah, cut it out.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for sharing your SGV3 with us and coming on here and sharing your story with us. I guess if people want to get in touch with you, I don't know if that's something that you want, but what would you like to share? Either your own personal contacts or Paris Baguette?
Probably through Paris Baguette, but then again.
And what's the address of that place?
708 East Las Tunas.
708 East Las Tunas, and it's in a corner. I don't know what you call it. That's not a strip mall, but there's Katsusando in the same. Banchan is in that same complex, and then there's that Korean stew place.
Yes,
also
Yukejang. That place is very good, and I don't really have any social media. I just choose not to because it's just
good for you.
Yeah,
healthier.
Yeah.
Well, Grace,
you can sleep.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's balanced with the nine liters of beer.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe that's why you sleep.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for coming on the show. We do appreciate you spending this time with us.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. Another episode in the books for you. We hope you learned something, or at least were entertained by Grace's unique story, and especially the items that she brought and the significance of those in her life. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can check out our full catalog of episodes on our website, mysgv.net. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the My SGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Russell Mono and edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.